Hey guys, it is Daily Thoughts number 10 with David Coleman, and you may be asking, does this guy wear anything else besides this jean jacket? Yes, I do. I do change my clothes, I swear to God. I just normally work in this because I work around a plasma table and metal a lot, so this is my metal gathering jacket. We got a lot to talk about today, but first thing I would like to say is it is tax season here in the United States of America, and that's one topic we're going to talk about today. It's an interesting time here around the U.S. just because a lot of people, it depends on which side of the spectrum you're on, income-wise, but some people are flush with cash right now because it is tax season, and some of us are hurting because we are about to pay our tax bills. So that's one topic we're going to talk about today, and just the general concept of tax in the United States of America. We're going to talk about the FOMC meeting that's going to happen tomorrow, the 31st and the 1st of February, and talk about the rates that could be going up there. I want to talk a little bit about Jordan Peterson and Joe Rogan, their podcast. I finally got to watch that today, which was fantastic. They talked about a lot of different topics that I think are pretty impactful and influential in our current time. And Jordan Peterson is a wealth of knowledge and philosophy that I think is very, very valuable to a lot of people. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. I'm currently rewatching it all over again because it was that good. And then I want to talk a little bit about the unrest that's happening right now in Iran and Israel and the whole Middle East situation. It's not the whole Middle East. It's kind of just that little section of the Middle East. And I'm not a Middle East scholar, so I'm going to say that right now. I don't know everything about the Middle East, but I am going to try to leave my comments on that and see if it makes any sense. So let's do tax season first. I did do taxes for about 3 years. I worked for a large tax company, one of the largest tax companies in the country, for 5 years, and did taxes for 3 for them. And I saw a lot of different and interesting situations and returns when it comes to taxes. This time of year is when a lot of people are getting their W-2s, which is a tax document for those of you who are outside of the U.S. W-2s and 1099s, and they're going to be filing their tax returns here soon. And for those who are making, I would say, moderate to low income in the U.S., you'll be getting probably a larger, and have kids, you'll be getting a pretty large tax refund because of the child tax credit and earned income credit and a lot of other things like that. So I found, personally, let's just get this out of the way. For me, taxes, I am not a big fan. I don't think anybody is a really big fan of taxes. But let me explain my reasoning behind that. I think a lot of taxes nowadays, some people pay 20, 30, 40% of their income. Me being a business owner, I pay small business taxes or self-employment taxes along with my own income tax on myself, along with, I live in Indiana, so we have a state sales tax here of 7%, and then we have county taxes here as well. But there's a lot of, I think we've gotten to the point here in the United States of America where the tax code is so lengthy and so convoluted and so just complicated to the point where you have to be a tax preparer or have to know the tax code in depth in order to be able to do your own taxes if you have any kind of advanced return or if you have any kind of investment income or a business or anything like that. You really have to know what you're doing or you're going to mess it up. And I think we have gone too far as a society in the U.S. and we've created so many caveats for low income and people who are, instead of trying to get a job to support themselves, they live off of the income of their tax return. When I did work for a big company that did taxes, I would see people walk out the door with tax refunds, combined federal and state combined refunds of upwards of $7,500, $8,000, $10,000, $12,000, and that would be literally twice of their yearly income. So they would make $10,000 and then walk out with a $10,000 refund, right? And then on top of that, they've got food stamps and yada 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 on top of that, HUD housing or government subsidized housing or whatever. So and then I would go do other returns for self-employed people, for investors, for traders of all different kinds who would have capital gains taxes and or real estate or anything along those lines, as long as they didn't fold it into a new property or something like that, where they would be literally paying 30-40% of their income, if not more, depending on. My mother also does taxes. In fact, she owns her own tax business and does this, but she has people who she does returns for that pay 40 to 45% of their entire gross income in taxes to the federal and state government. And you know what? There's a lot of philosophy debate that you can have about taxes and if they're good and if they're bad. But it comes down to the fact that I would be much more willing to pay my taxes if I had more of a say on where they went, and we don't really have a say at all on where these taxes are going or where the tax money is going to. And a lot of the spending that I'm seeing, even within my own state of Indiana, Governor Coleman and a lot of the other things that are going on here in Indiana, we are a pretty conservative state, so we don't spend needlessly, I think, in a lot of different ways, but a lot of the money that gets used is for things that I don't necessarily think we should be focusing on. We have a huge epidemic here with heroin and methamphetamines, and really bad drug problems here in Indiana. And I think we need to be, instead of spending tax dollars on Narcan and a lot of other, I don't want to say useless resources for drug addicts, we are really burning up money at an unbelievable rate. Both in this state and beyond in the federal government for all different kinds of education, CRT education, not in Indiana, thankfully, yet, but in other states and on the federal level for things that should not be used for tax money. And if I'm going to pay 40% of my income and other people are going to pay 40+% of their income in order to not be in jail, right? The implication is if I don't pay the correct tax rate, which the government decides, they're going to do an audit, or they have the same documents that I do, and then they're going to tell me if I file my return wrong that they're going to come audit me, or tell me that I owe more than what I thought it was, then they're going to send me to jail if I don't pay my taxes. That's the implication, right? And if you don't pay your fair share, we're going to come with a gun, with a police officer, with a law enforcement officer, and we're going to haul you off to jail for not paying the appropriate amount of tax to the federal or state government. And then past that, we're going to take your money and we're going to put it into what we think, which of course the policymakers in the United States of America are the politicians, right? And they make the laws and they do the spending. And we just had this huge omnibus bill for $1.7 trillion. We're gonna tell you, and then we're just gonna spend your money how we feel like it. We're going to tell you what we think is important, and we're gonna spend your money on that. So, you know what? To be quite honest with you, I detest taxes. And I did them for a while. Like I said, I prepared taxes for people, and I can't stand them, honestly, because I think it would be more justifiable if most of the money that I spent in taxes went to things that were actually important. Some things that I think are important, but using them for important things is not even the correct terminology that I want to use. If we weren't so wasteful with tax dollars, how about that? We spend a lot of money on really important things, but we do it in a very, very, very wasteful way. Very wasteful way. We spend a lot of money on education that is completely just pissed away on public schools where children are not learning. I mean, our test scores continue to go further and further and further and further and further down every single year. I graduated in 2013. It's now 2023. Test scores have gone down in the 10 years I've been out of high school by a significant margin. And even when I was in school in 2013 and before that, test scores had gone down to the previous decade compared to the previous decade before that. So we continue to spend more and more money on public education when it comes to elementary, middle, and high schools. And then on top of that, we have big universities, land grant universities like Purdue University, which is very near to me, and Indiana University in Bloomington. And then we have other universities scattered throughout Indiana. Most of them are not receiving government funding, but Purdue University and Indiana University are two huge, giant, billion-dollar endowment schools that receive an ungodly amount of money from tax dollars, from state tax dollars that I, as a taxpayer, and all the rest of us Hoosiers here pay for. And I also worked at Purdue University in one of my past lives. When I was much younger and in school, I worked for Purdue University for about 4 years, and I can tell you right now, and funny enough, I worked in the purchasing department of Purdue University, and I can tell you right now that the amount of money that Purdue University spends on random crap, I'm going to call it crap because there's much stronger words that I could use for it, but random crap that is absolutely not needed for a public university education is unbelievable. I mean, Purdue University gets grants from all over the place, from other corporations, from federal grants, from all different kinds of things. And then they get tax dollars. They have the Purdue Day of Giving, which gives like $450 million every year, approximately, to $500 million every single year to help build the university, which is fantastic. I think universities in their purest form and in the form that they were meant to be, they are fantastic ways of educating the next generation to carry on and to build the future of technology and to build the future of our society, right? But I mean, I would see professors who would purchase new MacBooks or MacBook Pros who would, which are $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 laptops every single semester, and then lose or take home one of the old laptops every single semester for their personal use because it was too old or didn't have the features they wanted, but they would be buying a new laptop or a new computer every time a new one would come out, right? I would also see a ton of university contractors who would come in and come in for 2 weeks or a week for a conference or whatever, and they would spend $18,000, $20,000, $25,000 to pay these people just to be there for a week or two. Okay, and these are just contractors who are doing a number of different things. If it was a research thing or a talk, and I'm not saying that people shouldn't be compensated for their knowledge. That's not what I'm saying whatsoever. So don't take it like that. However, when we have built up this giant pool of money that's taxpayer dollars, that there's no auditing, there's no accountability when it comes to the money that's being spent. It's coming from hardworking business owners, hardworking Hoosiers who are just trying to make it by, who are just working a job, paying their state sales tax, state tax, income tax. And this is going to Purdue University or any kind of other waste. There's a whole bunch of other wasteful tax dollar-funded projects out there. But it's just being kind of pissed away on things that are not necessary to the college education. And then our scores keep getting worse. The bachelor's degrees and the degrees and the education that people are getting from universities and high schools continues to go down and down and down. So it almost seems like we're spending all of this money and we're sucking the middle class and the upper class who pays a majority of the taxes when it comes to, I believe it's the top 5% of earners in the United States of America pay over 50% of the taxes in the United States. Those people are being sucked dry and unable to reinvest their money into the economy in order to fund what? In order to fund better education? Well, if you look at the numbers, maybe not. Because if our scores are going down, the bachelor degrees are getting less valuable, people are becoming more and more in student debt, student loan debt, then what are we actually improving or paying for? Because it doesn't seem like we're spending all this money for anything, to be honest with you. So, that's my trope on taxes for the time, but the tax season is here. It's always a difficult time for a lot of people. As a small business owner, I'm starting to prepare my own return right now, and it's going to be fun to see how much I owe the IRS. But we'll see what happens, and we'll go from there. So that's taxes for you. I'm sure I will harp on taxes in future episodes because I really do have a very deep-seated hatred for them because I've done taxes and I've spent a lot of time around them. So anyway, there's taxes for you. If you have any comments about taxes or have any conflicting ideas, please leave them in the comments below, because I'd love to hear your thoughts on taxes and what you think the current tax situation of the United States of America is. It's very interesting in my opinion. Okay, FOMC meeting January 31st, which is tomorrow, and also February 1st, which is on Wednesday. So the big talk right now, especially in a lot of the markets. We watched the market today take kind of a nosedive when it came to stocks, and also crypto took a hard dive as well. I'm more of a crypto guy now than I am a stock guy, but we saw a pretty hard dive, and I think that we are going to see. I'm hoping that this is a price in of the rate increase that we know is going to happen. We've seen the Fed, the Federal Reserve. They've raised the rates now, I think 6 months consecutively. Some of them I think were 0.75%. There was a couple of half percentages in there, and it is forecasted that we're supposed to get 0.25% or 0.25 basis points after this FOMC meeting. I'm hoping that we're pricing in this rate increase, which I think we are, both in the market, stock market, and also in crypto. But the Fed has said that they're not going to stop the rate increases anytime. They're just going to slow the increase of them. So it's not going to, we're not going to get a 1 basis point increase. Okay, that's probably not going to happen. I don't think we'll get a 0.75%. That's probably not going to happen. 0.5%. And there's a small likelihood we might get 0.5 basis points, maybe. But the most likely chance we're going to get 0.25. And what that affects is the ability for banks and other institutions to loan or to take money from the federal government in order to loan out to people. So your mortgages, your auto payments, your auto loans, your even personal loans, and all different any kind of credit in general is controlled by this federal prime rate. And as that goes up, what happens is it starts to reduce the money supply or the available capital in the, well, it doesn't really, I guess it wouldn't really reduce the amount of capital out there, but it reduces the ability for you to get capital, or the ability for people to want to get capital. Because if you're going to buy a house and you have 3% or 3.5% fixed mortgage, 12 months ago, a year ago, versus 7.5%, 8%, 9% now, you're much less likely in order to buy a house now than you would be a year ago, right? So that's the concept behind it. They're trying to shrink the amount of growth, or it's not the amount of inflation in the economy, and quit all of this needless, it's not needless, but all of this spending that we had for probably 3 years after the whole COVID pandemic. We had this kind of bubble that had built up. They're trying to slow that down and keep the inflation down so we can get back to normal economy again. I think we're still going to hit a recession in 2023. I talked about this in one of my previous videos of 2023 being a year of hell. I think that's still probably going to be the case. I think we're going to hit a recession here, and I think we're going to see a lot of things shrink. The manufacturing industry has shrank. Energy continues to rise, and it's going to continue to rise even more now that the strategic reserve has been nearly depleted. Winter is going to be here for at least another month or so, so we're going to continue to have high natural gas prices and the like. And so I think we're going to be in it for a year of hurt here, regardless of how the Fed raises rates. They'll be announcing the actual rate increase. I believe they do that right after the second day, or February 1st, which is Wednesday. And we'll see how that goes. But the market, I think, is pricing in that 0.25 basis points increase. So we'll see how that goes. That's my guess. We'll review this back on Wednesday. Okay. Jordan Peterson and Joe Rogan. Just watched this one time. Watched it again. Fantastic. They had I had spaghetti today from a local bar, and it was not very good and had mushrooms in it. So if you guys have had spaghetti sauce with mushrooms in it, please let me know, because I thought that was super weird, but it is not sitting well with me. Anyway, Joe Rogan and Jordan Peterson had a podcast today where they talked extensively on the logos, or the logic of our society, and how we've gone very far off of what the original founders, and what, in general, what the philosophy of the United States of America is. I definitely suggest you watch it. I believe it's episode 1933, and they go into detail of what men are lacking now in the United States of America, and what we as young men, as a young man, am told when I try to strive and do things. Our system is kind of set up in order to tell me and tell other people like me that I shouldn't be doing these things. I shouldn't be, I shouldn't be trying to strive, because if I try to build a business, or I try to go be successful, or if I try to have kids and a family, these things are going to either ruin the climate, or it's toxic masculinity. If I want to, work with metal and be masculine and do all these things, right? Or love MMA, or be aggressive, not in a bad way, but aggressive as in, like, I have aggressive ambition. I want to go out and do things. Apparently that's not good under the new rule of our culture. And Jordan Peterson and Joe Rogan talk extensively on why that's just not true, and why our society has lost its way when it comes to masculinity and the male figure. So definitely go watch that. Jordan Peterson, one of my favorites. I did get to see him live in Indianapolis last year, and it was really good. He was sick at the time, so he had a lot less energy than I was hoping when he was presenting, but I'm just surprised he went up there and presented while he was that sick. So thank God for Jordan Peterson. But go watch that episode. Give me your thoughts on masculinity in the United States of America right now, and how that's impacting young men, and the ability for young men to strive and to build things, how that affects young men when it comes to building families and relationships with women. Give me your thoughts below. I want all the comments I I can get because I just want to interface with you guys. Last thing we're going to talk about today is the Iranian-Israeli unrest. I don't have any confirmed reports on this because it's kind of convoluted, and I'm not entirely sure the whole scenario because there's been a whole bunch of different reports. Some people are saying that it's Israel who attacked some Iranian drone factories, which were producing drones for Russia in order to kamikaze drone bomb Ukraine. Those are some of the reports. When it first came out, some people were saying it was Azerbaijan. I've also heard that it could have been the U.S. It could have been Ukraine. I really don't know, and I'd really like to see a verified report on what actually happened. But I do know for a fact that there were giant explosions of unknown origin in Iran at drone factories and other places around the Iranian peninsula. So I don't know. I haven't seen a declaration of war. If it was the Israelis, we may never know because those are some sneaky guys, and their special forces teams are extremely good and may have just got in there, blown it up, or even blown it up by a missile or plane or a drone themselves or whatever happened. But we've seen a lot of protests going on in Iran here recently about against the Iranian regime by the people of Iran. And so it could have been internal, but I do know that there is a lot of unrest going on over there, and I would not be surprised if Israel and Iran went to a hot war soon. Obviously, the Israelis and the Iranians are not fans of each other, and by that I mean they've basically declared open war on each other. Well, I think Iran has declared open war on Israel, and Israel's just trying to defend themselves there in their situation. I will tell you now that I am pro-Israel. And so for all of you Palestinian fans out there, I think you are probably just misguided in your history of what happened in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. And I think you probably should do some more research on what is happening there. The long and short of it, as far as I understand, the Palestinians were a people, obviously, when the Israelis moved into this place and created the Jewish state. They did move the Palestinians to the specific section, Gaza being one of them, and I'm not supporting some of the ways that Israel has treated or ruled over the Palestinian people. Some of them are not maybe kosher, or that's a bad word. That was not a good pun, or a purposeful pun. But a lot of them maybe more than what I would have done. Obviously, I'm not a world leader. In the same regard, the Palestinians are also being used by Hamas, which is funded by Iran. Going back to Iran, Hamas is obviously a terrorist organization who is being funded by Iran to bomb and cause unrest and missile attack and RPG attack Israel from the Palestinian Gaza Strip into Israel, the main sections of Jewish Israel, which cannot be, there's no justification for that, to be honest with you. And I know that there were 7 Jewish synagogue worshippers who were killed by Palestinians in the past couple weeks. I think it was actually last week. And the Palestinians were celebrating that for some reason. And so this whole powder keg is just an absolute you-know-what show. And to be honest with you, I'm just waiting for a hot war to open out. So if you have any more details on the Iranian-Palestinian conflict or the Israeli-Palestinian conflict or the Iranian-Israel conflict or whatever's going on there, please let me know, because I've seen snippets from all over the place, videos from all over the place, but no one has accepted responsibility. There has been no formal declarations of war yet, as far as I know. But if there is, I'm sure we'll hear about it all over the news. But give me your thoughts below. And I'm going to finish up at that before I say something too stupid that I don't know what I'm talking about, because I really don't know that much about the Middle East conflicts too much. Regardless, I'd like for you guys to like, comment, and subscribe to the video. Ring the notification bell so you know when my videos are coming out. I really appreciate it, guys. I'm actually getting more views than I thought I would. I thought I would get 0 views on a lot of these videos, but we're getting a couple here and there, both on Rumble and YouTube. If you want to follow me on Instagram, which I'm finally being consistent on my Instagram posting a little bit, My Instagram is David Coleman YT for YouTube, David Coleman YT. Twitter is Colema, Colema 63eth. My Rumble channel is David Coleman 27, and the YouTube is David Coleman. So thank you guys so much for watching. We're going to talk later this week about the FOMC meeting and the rate hikes. I think we may talk a little bit further about the Israel-Iran conflict, because I want to learn more about that and see how everything's going and maybe educate myself a little bit more about that. And then I'm going to talk about Pfizer and some of the things that came out about Pfizer tomorrow. I wanted to save that for a little bit to let some of the heat come down, because I know as soon as I come out with this video, YouTube has already put out some guidelines on what people can and can't talk about with this Pfizer thing and the Project Veritas people. But I'm going to go ahead and save the heat for that for a little while until I can get everything collected of what I want to talk about. But the Pfizer revelations that came out from Project Veritas are very important. Anyway, it's been 25 minutes. Thanks so much for listening to me ramble about a whole bunch of different stuff. If you have any topic suggestions, please put them below, and I will see you on the next one. Thanks.